We like things like Ethereum, we do like Solana, we do like Avalanche, and you can go down a little bit lower on the capitalization scale. Bitcoin's the king. It is the dominant token. It is a better form of gold or digital property. Now, as Michael Saylor calls it. So I do think it will be the best, but the law of large numbers comes in. I think it could go up 10x from here easily over the next decade, but I think some of the smaller projects will go up orders of magnitude more, just the law of small numbers.
Mark Yusko is the founder and chief investment officer of Morgan Creek Capital Management and managing partner at Morgan Creek Digital, the arm of the investment advisor that invests in transformation technologies, including artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, computing infrastructure, and big data, the ABCDs of disruptive and emerging innovation, if you will. Yusko has been a long-time Bitcoin bull since he was introduced to the leading cryptocurrency many years ago. However, he does not identify as a Bitcoin maximalist, as he believes a number of other crypto projects have a lot of potential and are, together with Bitcoin, forming the basis of this new financial system, which Yusko calls the truth system. According to the Morgan Creek Capital founder, the traditional financial system is the trust system that instructs the public to gullibly trust the words of powerful middlemen who have been known to fight only for their own interests. In comes the truth system of the blockchain. With this new system, you don't have to gullibly trust anyone because everything is transparent and built on an immutable ledger. Yusko recently appeared for an interview with CNBC television, during which he gives his price predictions for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies in this bull market and beyond. According to Yusko, Bitcoin could easily hit $150,000 next year at the cycle's peak. However, Yusko is more bullish on other smaller cryptocurrencies, which he says will perform much better than Bitcoin over the next few years. As we bring you clips from Yusko's video and more, please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also join the conversation by dropping your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
We look at the fair value today from the Metcalfe's Law model. That gives us round numbers around 50,000. The halving occurs in 3 weeks. What a halving does, it cuts the block rewards, the amount of money that's given to the miners to secure the network. If those rewards were to get cut in half, as they do, many of the miners would struggle. So historically, what has happened, the price rises, the fair value rises. So that would push it at 100. But this time it's a little different in that instead of just block rewards, we get transaction fees because of ordinals and inscriptions. So let's say the fair value only goes to 75 this time. Then post-halving, you get a lot of interest in the asset, a lot of people FOMO in, and we normally go to about 2 times fair value in the cycle. So in the last cycle, fair value was 30. We got as high as 68, 69. This time, I think probably 2 times because there's less leverage. So that gets us to 150. The big move happens post-halving. So the halving occurs sometime between April 20th and April 21st, most likely. So once that occurs, then you start to get an increase in demand, right, from the ETFs and other people interested. But the supply of new coins goes from 900 a day to 450. Well, think about it. If there's more demand than supply, price has to rise. So the price starts to rise. It starts to become more exponential or parabolic toward the end of the year. And historically, about 9 months after the halving, so sometime toward Thanksgiving, Christmas, we see the peak in price before the next bear market.
What are other things out there, equity or other coin, that you're looking at that nobody's talking about?
You know, it is so hard because the regulatory regime has been pretty restrictive. I mean, there are the mining companies that secure the network. They've had a really good run, so the valuations are a little toppy, but we do like those businesses. There are component companies that make the machines that secure the network. AMD and NVIDIA have been a story, a proxy to play the crypto markets for about 6 or 7 years. But again, they're at valuation levels that are tough to stomach. There are a lot of really interesting products and new tokens in the private markets. That's where we traffic at Morgan Creek Digital. About 80% of what we invest in are private companies, and only about 20% are in the liquid tokens. But we like things like Ethereum, we do like Solana, we do like Avalanche, and you can go down a little bit lower on the capitalization scale. Bitcoin's the king. It is the dominant token. It is a better form of gold or digital property now, as Michael Saylor calls it. So I do think it will be the best, but the law of large numbers comes in. I think it could go up 10x from here easily over the next decade, but I think some of the smaller projects will go up orders of magnitude more, just the law of small numbers.
It's the bull market, and everyone is bullish on crypto assets and related projects. For Galaxy Digital CEO Mike Novogratz, the spot Bitcoin ETFs will continue to be a huge price driver for the crypto market, not just in 2024, but for many years to come. Another issue that has the billionaire investor extremely bullish on crypto asset prices is the increasingly gloomy macro environment. During his interview with Bloomberg Television, Novogratz cites the disturbing example of the US national debt, which currently sits at $34.60 trillion. We hit $33 trillion for the first time on September 18th, 2023. This means the US debt has increased by over $1.6 trillion in just a little over 6 months. As this is in no way sustainable, Novogratz believes more and more investors will look to Bitcoin to protect themselves. Here are some clips from the interview.
Bitcoin has broadly doubled since November, so let's hold this in context, right? We had a $35,000, dollar price 5 months ago, and we're now 70,000. And so it's been a monster rally. That rally was mostly fueled by adoption, right? With the ETF, it made it very easy for people in the US, institutions and the wealth channel, most importantly, to access Bitcoin for the first time. What's happening at the same time this is happening in the US, we're launching ETFs ETPs, with DWS in Europe. We've got a partnership with Itaú in Brazil, and you're seeing people around the world participating in the simpler form of Bitcoin, right? An easier access form. And so I think this is just starting. Like, what will happen to prices? Prices are going to consolidate for a while between 75 and maybe 62 or even 58. You could see a consolidation, but each 100 days our government's adding $1 trillion of debt, right? We're at 34 trillion right now. We'll be at 35 trillion and then 40 trillion. That story is so powerful. It makes it easy for salespeople, right? For registered investment advisors to tell their clients, put a couple percent of your net worth in Bitcoin. And you're seeing that happening. This is a process that's going to go for years, not for months. Listen, you could have bought a house in America in 2012 for $190,000, and today that number's about $400,000, right? And so when you print as many dollars as we're printing, forget what the headline inflation number looks at, because you have asset inflation that doesn't go into CPI. At times you have food inflation. And so you have lots of different inflations. The purchasing power of the underlying currency goes down, right? Look how much silver a British pound gets you today. Certainly does not get you a pound of silver. The long-term history of governments is that they debase their currencies, and we're in that process. And we've got an election coming up between Biden and Trump, both who I think will expand the balance sheet. We're running 25% of GDP as a federal budget. That number should be 20. So we're 5% of GDP off of where a real good, tight government would be spending. And I just don't see that changing, right? Populism is taking over the world. It's a very scary world in that respect. But Trump is a populist and Biden is a populist. We don't have a centrist in the system. And so I'm really skeptical that we're going to have a Simpson-Bowles amendment or something to balance the budget or someone to cut spending. And until that happens, it's easy to sell Bitcoin.
Mike, just real quick, I think you told investors that work on Delaware was ongoing and a NASDAQ listing ongoing. Do you have any updates on both of those items?
Listen, what I told investors was for 2.5 years, we have been working diligently with the regulator, the SEC here, trying to get redomiciled to the U.S. and listed on the NASDAQ. There was a change of philosophy after Jay Clayton in the last administration left and Gary Gensler in the new administration came in. And just looking at the facts, no companies that do anything other than Bitcoin have made it through as public companies. And it's been frustrating. It feels very un-American, right? That we've got this one group of companies that got public, that have access to the capital markets, that have access to cheaper funding, and we're waiting on the sidelines still. I am optimistic that things will change. You know, there's an election coming up. No matter who wins the election, I think there'll be turnover at the regulators. I think Democrats are realizing that crypto is, you know, the American public is voting. They're voting that they really like Bitcoin, they like digital assets, and they like crypto.
In other news, Bitwise CIO Matt Hoogan is just as bullish on the spot Bitcoin ETFs as Novogratz. He also expects the demand coming through the ETFs to last for years. In a recent post on social media platform X, the Bitwise CIO notes that there are still a large number of institutional investors who have yet to invest in Bitcoin ETFs, but are looking to do so in no distant future. ETF flows will continue for years, Matt begins in his post. A good question to ask about the new Bitcoin ETFs is whether the incredible inflows we've seen in the first 2 months represent a one-time surge or are indicative of long-term sustained demand. After my time on the road, I'm convinced that the latter is the case. That's because there is a massive dispersion in the pace of adoption of Bitcoin ETFs. I met financial advisors who have already allocated 3% for all their clients and others who haven't started thinking about it. I spoke with national account platforms that are approving Bitcoin ETFs this month and others that are eyeing mid-2025. In his post, Matt further notes that most professional investors still cannot invest in Bitcoin ETFs, but that will change soon as many investors will be doing their own due diligence on the ETFs and the underlying cryptocurrency over the next 2 years. He also points out that there has been a complete change of attitude and tone toward Bitcoin among investors since the ETFs launched. 3% is the new 1%, the Bitwise CIO reveals. I've been speaking with professional investors about Bitcoin since 2018. For the past 6 years, the discussion has mostly focused on a 1% allocation. That's the most that most investors would think about. Boy, has that changed? Almost every investor I've spoken with has talked about 3+% allocation. The primary reason, in my opinion, is that the launch of ETFs has de-risked the downside of Bitcoin. Before, people were worried Bitcoin could go to zero. In that world, a 1% allocation is all you can stomach. But if going to zero is off the table, 3% or 5% starts to make more sense. Matt is at the forefront of the whole process, speaking with investors about Bitcoin ETFs and gauging their reaction, and he is so bullish on what's to come. What do you think this all means for Bitcoin and crypto prices in the coming months and years? Please drop your replies, predictions, and comments on Yusko's and Novogratz's interviews in the comments section below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.